Hi, dear listeners and viewers. How's it going? After my time in France, my journey took me to Nigeria, the land of beauty, rich traditions, and stories that echo through time. Nigeria is a place where the past intertwines with the present, where each rhythm of the drum speaks of ancient wisdom, and every corner has a tale filled with wonder and warning. It's a country where magic exists in the whispers of the wind and in the vibrant colors of the marketplace. Among the many stories I encountered, one in particular struck me, an ancient tale that still resonates through the generations. This is the story of Adebayo of the River Niger, a man whose life was forever shaped by the forces of destiny, greed, and the unstoppable current of nature. Before you start, please subscribe to my channel and activate the bell button to find out about the next stories and make my heart happy with your beautiful likes and comments. The Tale of Adebayo of the River Niger. In a bustling village on the banks of the mighty river Niger, there lived a man named Adebayo. He was known throughout the village for his remarkable strength and his ambition that stretched beyond the horizons of his modest upbringing. He had inherited a small plot of land from his father, but Adebayo was not content with a life of simplicity. His heart burned with the desire to achieve greatness, to rise above the poverty that had once shackled his family. Adebayo's days were spent working the land, cultivating crops, and raising livestock. His nights were filled with dreams of building a future that no one could take away from him. The river Niger, which flowed majestically through his village, held a special fascination for him. The river was the lifeblood of the village. Its waters provided fish, water for crops, and transportation to distant lands. But for Adebayo, the river was not just a source of sustenance, it was a symbol of power, an untapped resource waiting to be controlled. He spent countless hours by the river, watching the water flow endlessly, and each time, his mind became more consumed with the idea of harnessing the river's power. If I can control the river, he thought, I will have the power to shape my future, to ensure that no man or force can ever take away what is mine. The villagers, wise from years of living in harmony with nature, often spoke of the river's spirit. The river gives generously, but it does not give without a cost, they would say. It is a force of nature, a power beyond the understanding of men. Respect it, and it will reward you. Abuse it, and it will claim what is hers. But Adebayo, young and full of ambition, paid little heed to the warnings of the elders. The river is a tool, he would argue. It exists to serve us. I will master it. One afternoon, as Adebayo sat by the riverbank contemplating his next steps, an elderly woman approached him. Her name was Aya Adura, known in the village as the wise elder who carried the knowledge of the old ways. She had seen many come and go, some rich with fortune, others brought low by their own hubris. I see the fire in your eyes, Adebayo, Aya Adura said, her voice steady and calm. You seek to harness the river's power, but I warn you, young man, the river cannot be controlled. It has a spirit, a force that no man can bend to his will. Adebayo, eager to prove his worth, scoffed at her words. I appreciate your concern, Aya Adura, but I believe the time has come for us to change how we live. The river has given for centuries, now it is time for us to take from it without fear. Aya Adura's gaze softened. Ambition is a powerful thing, Adebayo, but be careful. The river does not care for the desires of men. It moves with its own purpose, and those who try to control it often find themselves lost in its depths. But Adebayo was resolute. He spent the following weeks drawing up plans to harness the river's flow, determined to create a network of boats and water wheels to turn the river into an engine of prosperity. He built large boats capable of navigating the river's currents, and he constructed dams to redirect its flow. As he worked, the villagers watched, some in awe, others with growing concern. They saw in Adebayo's eyes a fire they recognized, one that often led to destruction. The first few months were filled with success. Adebayo's boats carried goods across the river faster than ever before, and his water wheels began to generate power to fuel the village's needs. The villagers, seeing the fruits of Adebayo's labor, began to admire him. They spoke of him as a hero, a visionary who would change the course of their village's future. But with success came greed. Adebayo's ambitions grew ever larger, and he began to push the limits of what the river could provide. He dammed the water further, disrupting the natural flow of the river to fuel his growing business. He cut down trees along the riverbanks to expand his infrastructure, and the fish that once thrived in the river began to disappear. Still, Adebayo was blind to the consequences of his actions. He saw only the profits, the land he was acquiring, the power he was accumulating. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the river, Adebayo stood on the edge of the riverbank, surveying his work. He felt a deep sense of pride. "I have done it," he thought. "I have conquered the river." But as the moon rose, something strange began to happen. The river, which had been calm for so long, began to stir. The water, once peaceful and steady, now rippled violently. The winds picked up, and the air grew heavy with a strange energy. A deep rumble echoed from the river, as if the water itself was angry. That night, a fierce storm descended upon the village. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and the wind howled through the trees. The river, swollen by the torrents of rain, began to rise. The boats Adebayo had built were tossed like toys, and the water wheels he had constructed were ripped from their foundations. The dams he had built cracked under the pressure of the rising water, and the once calm river became a raging torrent. The storm lasted for hours, and by dawn, the damage was unimaginable. The village was flooded. Homes were destroyed. The fields that had once been lush with crops were now submerged in water. Adebayo stood in the midst of the chaos, staring in disbelief. His empire, built on the river's power, had been swept away in a single night. As the storm subsided and the river returned to its normal flow, Aya Adura approached Adebayo. She looked at the devastation and then at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and understanding. "You see now, Adebayo," she said softly, "the river is not a thing to be controlled. It is a force of nature, a part of the world's balance. You sought to conquer it, and in doing so, you lost everything." Adebayo fell to his knees, his heart heavy with regret. He realized, too late, that in his pursuit of power, he had disregarded the wisdom of those who had come before him. He had failed to understand that nature, in all its beauty and danger, could never be owned. The story of Adebayo teaches us that unchecked ambition, when driven by pride and a desire for control, can lead to our own undoing. Nature, in all its majesty and power, cannot be manipulated by human hands without consequences. True wisdom lies not in domination, but in respect for the land, the river, and the balance that sustains us all. When we forget our place in the world, we risk losing everything that we hold dear. And so, dear listeners, let us remember that some forces are greater than our will. The river teaches us humility, reminding us that while we may shape the world, we must never seek to dominate it, lest we find ourselves overwhelmed by the very forces we sought to control. Be in the shelter of wisdom.